Have you ever lost sleep because you are just anxious about something, or something's happened that you don't know how it's going to be able to be resolved, or there's just a lot going on and your mind won't stop racing? That's happened to me a couple of times, and I find that to be really a hard thing to deal with. I know that many of you probably suffer with that even more, and um, gosh, it's a really hard thing to work through. But in those times, I always ask God for just a deeper trust in Him, because I can't see what the outcome's going to be. I don't know how it's going to resolve itself, and that worries me because I don't know how to control it. I don't know where to put my mind at ease. And that's not an easy thing. But I think that's in a certain sense, God desires that from us, this trustful surrender to Him. Because when it all comes down to it, God is the one who is in charge. God is the one who shows up when we need Him, and especially when we put our trust in Him. I can remember a lot of times that I would do this in seminary, when there was just a lot of things happening. A lot of things were overwhelming me, and I had no idea how I was going to get all of the things done I had to do or study for the test that I had to study for. And I remember just singing a song that was of peace, just asking for God's peace. And it was almost as if when I sang the words, it was like, "Peace now I give to you, my peace I pour through you, not as the world gives, but ever more sure." I remember as I would sing those words, it was almost as if the burdens lifted off. Not that it made everything go away, but it was this feeling of like, no, God has this in His hands. It's not for me only to carry. So today in our first reading, we see that Abraham has this radical faith, this radical trust in God. When God tells him to go and sacrifice his son Isaac, Abraham obeys. And he goes all the way up the Mount Moriah, with his son, even when his son is asking him questions like, "Hey, here's the wood, we have that for the sacrifice, and here's the knife, but where is the offering? What are we going to offer?" Because he thinks it's going to be something like a lamb or a ram or something like that. And Abraham just says God will provide that offering, when he knows in his heart that he's supposed to offer his very son, the son that God has given him to be the one through whom he is to be the father of many nations. So this is his son that he's prayed for, that God has promised to him, and now he's asking him to sacrifice him. It's up to the point where he's got the knife out ready to sacrifice his son, when finally God stops his hand and blesses him for his faith. We also see a similar kind of faith and trust in the saint we celebrate today, Saint Maria Goretti. She was dedicated to the Lord from an early age, that she loved him, she wanted to learn more about him. And when she was only, I think, 13 or 14, there was a 19-year-old farmhand that came and wanted to rape her. And she begged him not to make this sin, to not do that. And instead then he stabbed her. He stabbed her multiple times and she died. She was more willing to trust in God and to keep her purity, rather than to allow herself to be violated and to let this man violate her in that way. Today, let's ask for the same sort of trust, that radical trust in God, the radical faith that Abraham had, that Saint Maria Goretti had, so that we might always have peace in Him, that peace that passes all understanding.